Welcome to the Adventure Story Podcast. First, let me take 20 seconds to tell you about my new book. What if we've been looking for Atlantis in the wrong place? When an archaeologist dies protecting an impossible secret, her final message sends Eden Black racing into the Sahara to find an ancient crystal encoded with the knowledge of a lost civilization. It's the power that once turned a paradise into a wasteland. From high-speed chases through Marrakesh to an underground chamber older than recorded history, Eden must face a rogue scientist determined to use the crystal to reshape the world. Last time it awakened, the Sahara was born. This time, it could end everything. The Sahara Event is the 7th in my Eden Black archaeological thriller series. Search for The Sahara Event by me, Luke Richardson, wherever you get your adventures. Right, let's get on with the episode.
Long before emails and text messages, in the remote wilds of the Galapagos Islands, sailors had their own version of a messaging app, only it came in the form of a wooden barrel. Welcome to Post Office Bay, a centuries-old mail drop on Florina Island, where 18th century whalers and explorers left handwritten letters in hopes that a passing ship might take them home. No stamps, no formal addresses, just faith in the kindness of strangers. Today, the tradition lives on. Travellers from around the world leave postcards in that same weather-beaten barrel, and others pick them up to deliver by hand across oceans and continents, just out of the kindness of their hearts. After visiting the Galapagos, Jon Beardmore, who's joining us today, picked up over 50 of these letters and hand-delivered them to total strangers all around the world. Hey, I'm Luke. I'm an author of archaeological adventure novels. I travel the world looking for stories to put into my books and share with you right here on the Adventure Story Podcast. So far on this season of the podcast, we've talked about adventure stories from near and far, true and supposed. But this one is as real and human and honest and lovely as they come. It's about a man, a bunch of letters, and a bold experiment to connect people all around the world. Jon, how are you doing?
Very good, Luke. Nice to chat.
Yeah, really nice to chat. So tell me about this Galapagos postbox. Where does the tradition come from? How did you first hear of it? Where did you come up with this idea?
I was on holiday in the Galapagos Islands. I'd always wanted to go, and I was there in New Year, January 2023. And we were sailing around the islands, which is a common way to see them. On one of the days, the boat took us to Post Office Bay and told us about this postbox, this whiskey barrel that had been there since 1793. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So wrote a letter to my mum, took a couple back, and went back through the letter. There's like 300 plus letters in the letterbox at any one time. And with other people on the boat, we all sort of divvied up and said, anybody going to London? Oh, I'll take a couple of those. And I took them back to London and thinking, wow, this has got something, there's something about this. And when I turned up on a West London doorstep unannounced and just knocked on the door to deliver one of these letters, and the recipient was so stoked to get it that I thought, there's something in this. So maybe I should do this on a grand scale.
So that was letter number one.
Wow, unofficial.
Okay,
unofficial. That wasn't part of the actual challenge, but it was part of what gave me the idea and then actually proved the concept that there was something about it.
Wow. And that's amazing that you say there's 300 letters in this box at any one time, or they're around thereabouts.
Ballpark. There's probably, I estimate there's sort of possibly 50 to 100 people per day going to this island. 3 or 4 boats stop with 10, 15, 20 people on them. They're going, everybody's writing a few letters, 1 or 2 or 3, and then they might take the same amount. So the numbers are staying fairly consistent, but the turnover is really high. Most of the letters, when I went back to get it, hadn't been there for very long.
I see. So where did this tradition begin? You say it was back for several hundred years at that point.
Yeah, I think sailors and whalers that were working out in the seas for multi-year voyages were looking at a some way to get their mail home. And they came up with this idea of everybody sailing through the Galapagos. Well, let's just stick a whiskey barrel there. You can stick it in, and anybody coming past, if they know that there's letterboxes there, if they're heading in the direction where some of the letters are addressed, they'll pick it up and they'll deliver it by hand to the destination.
So tell me about some of the letters you delivered then. You took a certain number from the box and you made this pledge, you're going to deliver them all. Did you choose them specifically, or did you just grab the top handful and went for it like that?
Early 2023, I sort of said, right, this is what I want to do. I was looking for a big challenge to go and do. And so I sort of planned and prepared for more or less a year. And I went back to the Galapagos on the 1st of March, 2024, and collected 55 letters. I wanted it to be random, so I had no idea where I was going until day one, right? And so I just spread them out by geographical region. In most places, I took all the ones that were there. And then where there was more like America, North America and Europe, I just selected random ones that were places I hadn't been to before, or even quirky letters that caught my attention, and went, right, I got 55 letters. Now I'm going to go out and see if I can deliver them.
And you must have had some notable deliveries during that time.
Oh, loads, mate. The one thing that was unique about it was that every letter kind of had its own little story to it, whether it was the recipient who got it, knew it was coming, or had no idea. Some people had written them to themselves. There was one addressed to a lady in Houston that just said, "Show me your boobies." So I thought, oh man, that looks pretty cool. Oh, I'm curious to meet that person. And there happened to be another letter for Houston addressed to the mayor of Clowntown. And I thought, oh, that's curious. I want to go. I'll do both of those. Turned out they were both related because it was mother and daughter who'd sent the letters on the same trip.
Oh, right.
But because the handwriting's different, the tone of it's different. I always spent these time looking at they became characters, the cards, trying to work out who was involved and what was the backstory behind it, and then trying to guess, and then obviously trying to meet the people and find out the story in person.
You said one of them you almost got arrested trying to deliver this letter.
Yes, I turned up in Bergen near the end for letter number 50. Customary, I'd go up and I'd make an attempt to deliver in the afternoon. Nobody was home, so I went back in the evening, and there was a young lady there that was a helper looking after the child, and the letter recipient was at the gym. And so I told her what I was doing, and she just thought, I thought everything was fine. But unbeknownst to me, after I'd said, look, it's okay for me just to wait here, she kind of flipped out with the girl inside, and they mistook my selfie stick as a potential knife that was just sitting in my pocket, the top of it coming out of my selfie stick. And so about an hour later, while I was still sitting there waiting, the police turned up to question me on what was I doing here. And everybody turned, once they found out that it was legitimate and I was storing the delivery was from one of the letters from one of my friends, and it wasn't. It was a selfie stick. Everybody was kind of relieved, and we went inside, had a cup of tea, and had a nice chat.
It all ended well. And there must have been some that were quite emotive to have picked up, because maybe there were people that they hadn't seen in a long while. Or
yeah, there was a love letter in Belize that when I got there, the couple had actually split up, and so it was like, oh, damn it.
Too late.
Then, yeah, exactly. I delivered one in China to a Chinese cardiac surgeon, and he was looking after his father who was on his deathbed, and I delivered it to him that day, and his father died later the same day. It was it was quite surreal because it reminded me of my own father, and it was my father passing from motor neuron disease that was acting as one of the key inspirations for this journey to try and raise awareness and raise funds for motor neuron societies and ALS organizations around the world.
Yeah, and coming on to that brings us on to sort of my next question, really, because ultimately the challenge of delivering the letters, whilst a great connecting point, a great touching point, this was about more than just that physical challenge, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, I wanted to get out in the world, and I was getting a little bit frustrated with the way things were for me personally. I get a little bit tetchy, and the world is post-COVID, and we've got all the social media now. And so I was feeling a little disconnected. You can't catch up with your friends. Nobody turns up just on the doorstep anymore. You don't message 3 weeks in advance, everybody thinks you're a bit strange. So I wanted to get back out in the world and actually reconnect with people. And so I decided that the letters and the ability to just turn up and not know where I was going or what was going to happen was meant there was spontaneity brought back into my world and gave me a unique opportunity to go and travel and meet new people.
And you raised some money whilst doing this for motor neurons disease and ALS.
Yeah, that's right. The MMD New Zealand charity that helped my dad raise some money for them, and also had a charity here in the UK, because that's my sort of second home, for a charity called Stand Against MMD here. Was raising money for them as well, which was great.
So you filmed the whole process, did you? You've turned this into a video or an audio.
I shared the story. There was always, I try to do journeys that have a purpose to them. Now, there's nothing wrong with the weekend escape and everything like that, but to go and travel and explore the world, I like to be motivated and have a purpose to do it. And so this was a big purpose to try and do it. So I wanted to share the story. I chose to do it via Instagram to try and keep it as simple as possible with one platform. That meant trying to turn into portrait shooting, which as a filmmaker in the past bugs the hell out of me. So I started to share the story via Instagram, making little videos as I was going of some of the deliveries. The media picked up on the story when I hit North America in May last year. And so they started coming along and following the story and sharing the story. So that started to put more and more content out there. So I've got lots of footage of various things throughout the year, but the final 3 or 4 weeks of the trip, I filmed it back into landscapes so that I've got the basis. I did a little mini challenge called Post Haste across Europe, where I let social media decide how I was going to get from A to B to deliver the last half a dozen letters and what challenges I'd have to do before I was allowed to make the delivery. And so, example being, I turned up dressed as a Viking in Copenhagen and I got thrown off the property by the lady. Didn't think it was appropriate. So I filmed the last section I've got the footage there to make a film, a documentary of the journey.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can just imagine her not realizing that you're there for such sort of honorable reasons and just asking you to get off her land before,
Normally the goal is everybody I've turned up, unless it's the letter, right? They've sort of everybody's a little bit sort of uncertain when you first turn up. What do you want? And you're trying to explain what it is, but then ultimately you show them the postcard, the letter that's come from a friend of theirs, and that all of a sudden changes everything. Everybody's, okay, your crazy story is legitimate. It's come from somebody I know. You can't, it'd be bonkers. How else would it work? So that normally works. But in this one particular case, I showed her the letter and she was just like, yeah, leave the letter in the letterbox and leave, please. And I was just like, oh. It was frustrating because I loved the interaction. Even though every one I did, I was still nervous, no matter how many times I did it, because you never quite knew how it was going to unfold. So that was a bit of a disappointing one, but I understand. Stranger, big guy, had a massive beard that had been growing for a year, dressed as a Viking because it had been voted by the public. And I'm standing outside her door in the snow at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and she's just like, yeah, best you go, mate.
Oh, I can understand her apprehension to welcome you in for a cup of tea and a chat, but also knowing you, I feel that would have been a great thing to do as well.
Yeah, it was the one time it didn't really come off, unfortunately. There was a couple that I tried to make deliveries and nobody was home, and I left them a note, and they haven't been in touch. But the vast majority of the letters, I've met the people involved. I'm still in touch with them, and we had a big finish line party a few weeks ago, and 10 or 11 people came internationally from that I'd met around the world for the party to finish, which was brilliant.
That's amazing. So the people you'd given letters to, you've met again since.
Yep. Yeah. I had people from Panama, Mexico, North America, Houston, New York, Dublin, Estonia. The taxi driver from Estonia that helped us deliver letter came, and then the head of the MMD Iceland came along as well. So it was brilliant to see everybody again.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So did this mission take you anywhere, or this challenge take you anywhere you wouldn't otherwise have gone? You've mentioned a load of countries there. I know you were a bit of a true traveller anyway. Was there anywhere that you went sort of that you hadn't been before or never would have considered otherwise?
The letters dictated where I would go, but how I got there was up to me. So I wanted to go to all 7 continents. I wanted to be global, and I hadn't been to Antarctica before. So I went to Antarctica after I delivered the first letter, after I'd picked them up. I made a plan. I decided to book a cruise down there in a couple of weeks after I started, and hoping that I might get a letter to go down there. I didn't. But we did go to the most southerly post office in the world. That was awesome. I mean, I got to do so many bucket list activities along the way. I went to all the big waterfalls in the world, Iguazu, Niagara Falls, Vic Falls in Zimbabwe. I went to see the gorillas in Rwanda and Uganda as well. I went sumo wrestling in Japan. I went to Bhutan, which is a bit of a trickier place to get to on a trip. While I was just traveling around, I was able to try to squeeze in as much of new places. And I went to, of the 52 countries I spent time in, 19 of them were new for me. So there was a lot of retreading of the ground, but there was a lot of new stuff at the same time, which is great.
Yeah, I can see that. It's important to have a mixture of both of that when you're on the road, I think, too.
Yeah, I didn't mind. I want to I'm trying to go and visit all sort of 193 UN countries, and I added 19 more over the year, which was nice, good to do. But yeah, I did go to a lot of places that I've been to before. I mean, but what you start to learn is that even within those countries that you've been to before, there's so many other little places within them that you can go and check out for the first time. And the more important thing actually was the people that I met along the way, which is what I always get excited about.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And that sort of brings us back to the point of doing this, wasn't it? Because you're thinking about and you're considering that big question, connectedness, disconnection, how digital lives have stopped that real connection. Did you have any epiphanies or realizations or make any progress on your thinking of that problem whilst you were on the road?
Well, I think it kind of confirmed my suspicions. Even though we've never been better connected before, I think we're less connected. I struggle to see my friends. We all seem to have this busy lifestyle, and you don't get a lot of communication is done electronically now rather than just meeting up in person. And so I suspected this would be the case because I've traveled and I spend a lot of time and I go out into the world, because it's the greatest way to get connected on a personal level with people is when you're traveling and meeting new people. But when you come back into your sort of own sort of lifestyle, sometimes, that shrinks rapidly. And literally, I've been back about a month now, and it's like I could have gone, I've never been anywhere. It's gone straight back down to quiet again, and I'm not seeing very many people. It's just the way the world sort of operates now.
Yeah, I understand that. And sometimes I almost think that you see people more when they are on the road because they've got stories to tell you. You're seeing their photos and hearing their adventures and their mishaps and all of these sorts of things. Whereas if you're in the normal life, it's like, well, what happens that's that interesting on a weekly basis?
And it's having the time and the space to do it. We're busy lives, jobs, careers, families. It just takes up all your spare time. And removing yourself from that situation is not something that everybody can do. So I'm fortunate that I can work and travel at the same time, which allowed me to help pay for make it possible. And when you remove yourself from that sort of day-to-day stuff, then you free yourself up, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of time that you can actually spend towards making relationships and meeting new people and chatting to somebody that you might not normally do.
Yeah, I understand that. I can get that completely too. I suppose in a way, you're participating here in a tradition that's sort of 200 years old, aren't you? But yet in a very different way. What did you learn about the world and the scale of the world and the number of people in it and the differences that we have between various continents and cultures that perhaps would have been obvious 200 years ago because of the speed of travel and the lack of connection in the internet sort of sense? Whereas now we are connected, but I think those differences still exist, right?
As a human race, we've got some pros and we've got some cons, but we haven't really changed that much. And everybody's still human. We still love to hang out with our friends and our family. And actually, we're not at all different. Everywhere I go to explore countries and places to find out for myself what they're like. And everywhere I go, I find similar traits of all mankind and people that I meet along the way. So I think we're a lot closer than everybody thinks. There's a lot of division in the world, and the media is a bugbear of mine because I both use the media to help tell my story, but at the same time, they have a very much focus on the stories that they tell and trying to tell good stories like I was doing around the world. Wasn't that easy to get time. And people's attention spans move so quickly. But I don't think the world's a pretty good place, right? You know, we hear a lot of negativity, but it only makes up a small portion when the vast majority is positive. And it's that balance is the wrong way around. And people need to just try and remember that you and I, we've just been introduced by some friends of friends. People will genuinely be warm and welcoming and hospitable. And I think if we all had more friends and a bigger, wider international community of friends, we would have less sort of issues in the world.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And it's something that I try and spread that message as often as I'm able as well. Yeah, totally. So I have a question I asked to everyone on the podcast, normally towards the end of our conversation, because we're all about adventure stories, whether they're fiction, whether they're real, or whether they're movies, whether they're books, in whatever form they come. And I want to ask you, what adventure stories, whether books, movies, legends, history, whatever, sparked your imagination and your want for adventure and your want to see the world and your want to go out there and live it and experience it?
Oh, look, I mean, in terms of, I'm a big film buff, so there was all the classics when you were growing up in New Zealand, because, you know, saw New Zealand. I didn't leave New Zealand really until I came to the UK, until I was 25 years old. And so I'd only been to Australia prior to that sort of thing. And so it's all outwards films. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, always a classic, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, a lot of those sorts of imagination and science fiction inspired me or got me excited. I think as I've got older, I've started to look back into history more. And I did a trip about 12 years ago now where I drove across Central Asia because I wanted to explore the history of the Great Game. And that was the battle control of Central Asia between Tsarist Russia and British India in the 1800s. And I'd read some books about it that I'd got to there. And it was telling me about all the great explorers and the adventurers from the Royal Geographical Society and so on like that. And that gave me something that was actually something in past human history that I wanted to go back and explore. And that inspired me to drive across all of those countries from London to Malaysia and back, 30,000 sort of miles over 9.5 months. And that was an amazing experience to be able to go back through time with knowing about the history of the region and also how it also affects everyday life today. Because as we know, we're still seeing issues through that part of the world that affect us all.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. And I think I like what you've said there, that's changed over time and that you've done something to sort of uncover that and discover that in your own way. I think that's powerful.
Yep. Yeah, I love it.
So once again, Jon, tell us where people can find about your challenge, about the charities that you're supporting and where they can support you or find you should they want to.
Easiest way to look back and see the history of what I've done is on Instagram at Big O Adventures, or one word, at Big O Adventures. In there in the bio, there's links to a Facebook page, there's link to a t-shirt website, there's links to the charities. You can find out and research more. And if you just actually Google Galapagos Postman, you will see me all over the internet for all of the the media stories that were published, a lot of news articles along the way, so you can read a little bit more about it. But Instagram is the best place to see it all sort of laid out. And if you stay tuned and follow me, you'll be kept in the loop for film and book and talks and presentations that will come out in the near future. Well, in the future. Yeah, as an author, I'm sure you never can be sure how long it's going to take.
It takes a while, yeah. The muse is a fickle thing, yes.
Oh, indeed.
Jon, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks very much for having me, Luke.
This is the Adventure Story Podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out today. It's great to spend some time with you. As Jon just mentioned, there are loads of links to all the various causes and the various adventures that he's had in the show notes for this podcast. It's a bit of a bumper one, so please make sure you check that out. If you've enjoyed the show today, please subscribe, like, and share. It'll take you just seconds, but really helps me spread the word about this show and what we're doing. And if you have a story you'd like me to explore, remember, it's not just like historical adventures. We're talking real world adventures, like the story today as well. Let me know in the comments or via email, hello@lukerichardsonauthor.com. If you need more adventure in your life, and let's be honest, who doesn't, you might like to join the Adventure Society. This weekly newsletter is your ticket to travel with me, share my real-world adventures, and find out first when a new story or a new season or episode of this podcast drops. LukeRichardsonAuthor.com/Adventure Society is where you need to go for that. A special thanks, as always, to my patrons who make creating in different ways like this possible. All of my books and podcasts are dedicated to you. You keep me motivated when times get tough and focused when something else threatens to steal my attention, like brewing my own beer. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Many of you have been supporting me since the very early days, and for that I'm really, truly, incredibly grateful. If you'd like to support me on my various creations, consider joining that crew on Patreon. You'll get free early access to my books, commercial-free direct downloads of this podcast, and more fun stuff as I invent it. Check out LukeRichardsonAuthor.com/Patreon, Patreon. And if you're a fan of adventure stories, like the one we're talking about today, check out my books, although mine are a bit more historical adventure, sort of action, thriller-y type thing, at LukeRichardsonAuthor.com. I think you'll love them all the same. Bon voyage, enjoy the adventure, and I'll see you again soon.